I mean, it should be.
It should be, guys. We're live right now with Esthefany Odicio. She's from Florida. The research capital of the universe is in Florida. Thank you so much for coming on. This is like I'm so honored. This is such a rare. This doesn't happen. It's not rare. It's never occurs. So
Yeah,
thank you. It means a lot to me. It's only been 5 years in the making. I think maybe more.
maybe more. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time, and I do feel like it's been a few years, but this is perfect time to kind of
It's perfect. Just
reconnect.
like just like your site, Forward Clinical Research, we're going forward in time, and you've actually grown. I'm pretty proud of you. Like you were one of our initial clients of DSCS, and I
Mhm.
remember doing like some one-on-one coaching calls with you way back in the day. Like I remember you, because you had interesting stories and interesting issues you had to navigate.
Yeah.
Um, we can discuss some of those, but you're doing really good. So thank you. And by the way, Stephanie's going to be at SOS, and Stephanie's LinkedIn is underneath when you're watching this later on YouTube or listening on the pod. Just click connect with her. She's an amazing person to get to know. Uh, so thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, so when I first started, I remember I called you, and this was maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think I was just, being in the industry at that point, like 9 years in, I was kind of out for 2 years because I had kids. So I was like, just, focused on the family. So I was trying to get back into research. And when I called you, I was like, well, I know that this is what I wanted to do. And I knew you were the right person to kind of like reconnect with and like kind of refresh me on research again. And you definitely gave me like the confidence to basically just be independent,
Mm.
and just be on my own and focus on like, what I wanted to do with research. So definitely because of you, I had like a lot of confidence in coming back into the field. So
Thank you. I'm glad to be able to play even like a small role. Yeah, I remember those conversations now that you bring that up. And now you're look at you now, Stephanie,
yeah.
running all these PIs. You have like so many studies going on. You're managing staff. You're dealing with multiple investigators, sponsors, crazy sponsor requests, normal sponsor requests. Like what? How's business been this year for you?
So as you know, like I think in research, it's like, there's trends overall with the trials and just overall in business. But I think what we have noticed is like it's really picked off more now, and we've gotten very busy the last few months. But there's some trials where we're finalizing. We've closed out like 3 studies, or yeah, 3 studies this year, and we've actually just we're starting 6 new trials. Um,
Wow.
so we started in cardiology, and cardiology was pretty slow in 2020, because the COVID trials. So cardiology has been pretty slow, and then it's not till this year and next year now it's really picking up. So we're starting to kind of see more of that, and that's really our busiest practice, our cardiology research.
Cardiology. Is that the one you started with?
Yeah, so I started with 7 cardiologists. It was
S-
a big group.
So right at once. So you signed like one deal with all of them, or how did that work?
So I did a lot of door knocking. I called all of my local cardiologists and doctors in the area, and then I reached out to this private group. And it was just one cardiologist. He owns a practice, and it's 6 of them that are all,
Well,
on there. 3 of them are interventional, and kind of pitched them the idea of research and incorporating it into their practice. It's a very busy practice, and they were like all in. So yeah, right away, they all signed with me, and um, we got started on our first trial with a small pharmaceutical company, which they just submitted to the FDA, and we've been kind of going forward since then.
those small ones are cool to work with, but I feel like they have the hardest time paying. Like,
Really?
well, I guess it's hit or miss, but yeah, like lately at least, this I've worked with really big pharma. on one hand, like the biggest you can think of. I'll give one of them a shout out because they're the best sponsor I've ever worked with, Eli Lilly.
Mhm.
And then on the like, you can't get bigger than Eli Lilly. They're number one biggest by market cap. And then on the other end, like these small, obscure biotechs you've never heard of that are some of them are not even publicly traded. Uh, and I've noticed like Eli Lilly pays on time. Like they pay like almost in real time. I've never experienced this before. Like you do a visit, 2 weeks later you're like paid for it. It's amazing. And then on the other end, you get these small biotechs, and it looks like they're kind of struggling to
Mhm.
like to finance everything. So they're nice and all that, but they it takes a while for them to pay you. Like they're waiting on their next financing, and
Yeah.
you're dealing with all those issues. But I think both is good to deal. I mean, we as site owners, we have to learn how to work with all of them.
Yeah, we've had actually good experience with working with small pharmaceuticals just because I think for me it's like you get to know the team, like the operations, the CEO, like everyone, the director. So there's a better communication there. As far as payments, I think they've been pretty consistent and on time. Maybe because we've been like top enrolled or very active with enrollment, but I think what they do lack is like the management of the trial. Like they don't. Some of them don't even work with CROs.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I think maybe that's why they lack paying on time with some sites. Maybe they just don't have the right pieces and they're just
Possibly.
not organized. But I don't know. We've had good success working with them, and sometimes I prefer because you're just working directly with them, just you can communicate everything very
Yes,
closely. But well, so that's how it started
I
basically with small
supervise. Yeah.
pharmaceuticals. Yep.
That's cool. So you've been like through this. So really, like your forward clinical research is still a startup, but you guys are doing multiple studies now, 6 studies. How many coordinators do you have there, including yourself?
uh 3 coordinators. We have 2 people in charge of like business and marketing, and yeah, so
3 coordinator and then 2 separate people like biz dev marketing.
mhm.
And what are they doing to get studies for you, those biz dev people?
So our main business development person, she's in charge of basically reaching out to sponsors, scheduling meetings, and then she does the business side for the sponsors, bringing in trials, and then she also does the business development with me with looking for other physicians in the area that want to participate in research. So we do a lot of door knocking, we do lunches, we do like health, and then the other girl who does the marketing stuff, she does like she health events, health fairs, whatever we can do to market in the area. So that's kind of a combination. We all work together
I
in
see.
business development. Yeah.
Are patient referrals like an issue for you guys?
So we haven't had any patient referrals at all because most of our patients come from the practice. So I want to say 90% of our patients come from our physicians, our investigators. They each see between 20 to 30 patients a day, and that's 7 of them. So between all of them, that's like 400 patients a week, 4,000 patients a month, and then we have a stress lab where we do ultrasound and stresses. So between that, it's like 30 patients a day there on the schedule. So we're like recruiting patients from the practice and they're referring into the trials.
And what does that process work? So it sounds similar to mine. I don't do cardiology, but internal medicine. So sounds like similar volume. We're dependent on constantly reminding the providers, like, hey, remember about this study. Just yesterday, because I did this, one of the nurse practitioners sent me 2 people that we got a call. But otherwise, we're just on the EMRs looking, and I'm going to try to link this AI thing to it so it can make it easier. But what's that process been for you?
So I feel like our process is really effective. What we did with it's a lot of trial and error, and it's whatever works with your physicians. I think that's important because some physicians have a different approach how you want with their patients. So what works for us is mainly have we print out the schedule for the week for the whole practice, and our coordinator will go through the schedule, go through the EMR system, see which patient is diagnosed for, let's say, heart failure, and she'll highlight the patient or she'll print the progress note. Then what she'll do is she'll when she identifies a patient that qualifies for the study, she'll write on the note, this is a good candidate for whatever trial we're doing. And then every day we have these like communication folders with our investigators where we give it to them at like maybe at lunchtime or just throughout the day. We put it on their desk and they know
Every day.
every day they have to, because there's a lot of signing involved too. Like they have to sign
Oh,
paperwork.
okay. So you put those in there also, like the signing.
Yeah, so we have, I don't think I have one, but we have a folder where we just kind of put all the notes and everything, all communication, research communication, and they know. So it'll be on their desk, and then they review it whenever they can. And most of the time they'll write, yes, call this patient or don't call it. But we already know that patient's scheduled for a visit that week, right?
Hmm.
So if they approve the patient to be in the trial, then the day of the visit, like the day they're coming into the clinic for like standard of care, we just remind them, hey, this patient's coming in today to see you. If
Hmm.
you would like this patient to be in the trial, let us know. We're right here and discuss it with the patient. So the patient comes in, cardiologist appointment, and the cardiologist mentions the trial, and then he'll just, we're outside the room, or he'll just text us or call us, and he's like, okay, ready to screen. And we complete screening that same day. So that works a lot. And that's kind of how we do it. And it just, them seeing us every day is a reminder of like, hey, don't forget we're still recruiting for this trial. So that communication folder is very important because it's like on their desk and they know that they're still involved. So we talk
Hmm.
to them every single day. I mean, there's some days where they're like, oh great, like you guys again, but
Yeah,
you have to be consistent.
that's
If you're
every day for me.
every day, yeah, yeah. I
Interesting.
mean, some days are good,
So
some
you incorporate. That's interesting. We might do that then. You incorporate because we do that. Here's some labs to sign every day almost. Come or right training logs, whatever. We'll incorporate the recruiting into that. That's interesting because that's for us like a kind of a separate process that if we have time, we do it. But you have it much more methodically organized to where it's just part of the regular interaction with the PI. That's really cool.
Well, I think that's really what it is. We don't make research about signing. It's about recruiting. So I don't want them to be like bored, like, oh, this is all I'm doing is signing. You have to
Hmm.
shift it to like, no, the focus is patient recruitment and patient, just
And
the
by the way, here's some papers to sign.
by the
Interesting.
way, please sign.
So, who does all this? Because you only have what? You have you, two coordinators, and then two biz dev type of people. So, who's doing this aspect?
Coordinator. That's the moment she walks into the clinic, she prints a schedule. That's like it takes an hour for her to review everything. The
But what
schedules.
if there's like a patient that morning? Like, who's doing that? Who's doing this?
Um, so if there's a patient, I mean, it shouldn't take more than an hour, and the patients don't get into the clinic till 9 a.m. and she gets there at 8. So she has from 8 to 9 to do the schedule review, and then at 9 start seeing patients.
I
Of course,
see.
if there's a patient at 8 a.m., which rarely happens, we'll always see the patient first.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think the key is like structuring a coordinator's day, and they're able to do manage a lot of things well. Because I was a coordinator for many years, and I know it gets overwhelming, especially when you get a lot of trials.
Right.
But I think right now they're not overwhelmed just because we just finalized some studies and we're in the startup like they're all the studies are in different phases right now.
Okay.
But the key, and they know we have weekly goals of a number of patients that we should be able to see, monthly goals, and it also like study goals, study recruitment goals. So the focus is always like patient recruitment, and it's just review the database.
Mm.
And then we
And then
also have
who?
we have
This.
an office manager, but she's part of the practice, and she supports research a lot. So what she does, even though it's not really part of her responsibilities, but she helps, is she'll send me hospital list of patients who have been hospitalized over the weekend that our cardiologist saw. And she'll send me the list of all the patients that were in the hospital or are in the hospital. And she'll send that to me like twice a week. And it's a list of like 10 or 15 patients. So we have to either schedule them if they're new patients or review their hospital records for a study.
Because in this, for a particular study, I'm assuming you need that criteria
Yeah,
to
yeah, for some of the cardiology studies, they have to have recent hospitalization. So we have access to a hospital database through our
Mhm.
practice. So it's very high volume. I mean, it gets pretty overwhelming with
The
patients.
practice is high volume. What about the research? Are you guys like at like consistently, if you want to talk about it, like how many visits a day or a week, or like what kind of goals are you actually setting? I'm curious.
So it depends on the trial. So far, what we've done with the studies that we've had is we've been either top enrolled in the country or first site to enroll first patient so far. There's
Mm.
one trial that we started a little bit later than other sites, so we're a little behind on recruitment, but we try to always reach our recruitment goal. It doesn't have to be um, just overall. I mean, for the month, for sure, the month is important, to finalize all the patient visits. Um, but we did have one study that was a one-time visit. Um, pretty easy. It was like a technology study we were doing, and we got almost like 200 patients in there. And it
Wow.
may not sound like a lot because it's a one-time visit, but if you think about it, it's even though it's a one-time visit, there's still so many parts to that one-time visit, the consent, the
Hmm.
data, and just making sure overall the quality of the study is well. So I think it just depends on how much we want to manage as a site. Um, so I don't make it a goal to like have like 500 patients in a study because I do feel like that's overwhelming as a site. So we try to just focus on like having good data and making sure the patients are consistent with their visits or their drugs or whatever they're doing. So yeah, I mean, it just depends on the trials. Some of them are one day, some of them are like two-year trials, 4-year
Hmm.
trials. The visits are like every 3, 6 months, phone calls. It just depends. But right now, I mean, they're pretty simple. Most of them are phone calls.
Are you're a hands-on, you're obviously a hands-on owner. You have a coordinating experience. I'm assuming you're the manager managing the staff. Uh,
Yeah,
do you guys have like a weekly meetings or with each other, or like how do you enforce like your standards for
the company.
your staff? Yeah,
See, that's a little challenging because I feel like that's
I know.
HR. Like it's like a whole HR thing, and I would love to eventually have like an HR department because like when I started Forward, like the main reason I started it was because I was, obviously a mom and I was working at other research companies, and it's very challenging to like be able to balance being a mom and being a working mom. And I think a lot of other company or just regular companies didn't understand like how important it was, like that I had to leave, to pick up my kids from school, or they were sick one day, and it was kind of affecting my career. So when I started the company, I was like, well, I want this to be a place where people are happy and people don't feel like it's like they just come to work and they do their duties and then go home. Like I want them to be passionate about it. I want them to be like come to work and have a good balance at
It's
home.
tough to do that. It's tough because I
It
know I'm in the same camp. I'm not a mom, but
Mhm.
I'm in the same camp of like I want staff to enjoy this. A lot of these people are all of these staff are brand new to research, so I'm like the ambassador to the industry for them, and I understand it's a stepping stone, although they're welcome to stay as long as they want, and there's hopefully if they grow with us they don't leave. But I also want that, but that I think the trade-off that I've seen with that is efficiency is lost a little, because if you want to run like a really tight ship, I mean, like a machine, like Jack Welch, General Electric type of Six Sigma, which nobody does anymore. But if you want to go that hardcore, you're gonna lose some of that freedom, right? And that
Yeah.
flexibility. My staff say they stay because of the flexibility. So I do think there are trade-offs to be made from leadership roles, and I'm like super fascinated by this topic. I was talking to Brad about it kind of last night through text.
Yeah, I think So I mean, I think the flexibility is important, but I also think it's like what they're doing in their time, like the
Mhm.
staff, like it's every minute is valuable. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. It's like what you make out of it. And I think for business, it's like if you're in the office and you have to be very productive, and then hopefully the less you can work. So um that's kind of how I see it. I mean, their schedules are so fair, like they it works around their personal life. Like I'm very understanding when it comes to family and office, dentist appointments, whatever they have. Like I get it, and I don't want them to feel like this is like a robotic company where you just so it balances out because I feel like they appreciate that and they kind of work harder.
Yeah, site
you know
culture. Brad says site culture is so underrated. Karina, and no one talks about, by the way, and
No
Karina
one
says,
talks about,
"Mom,
and especially coordinators. It's like they're overworked. They really are,
they
like,
are overworked." And this
underappreciated.
my strategy, like right now, and it's probably because I can afford it. If I were like this was my first site and I needed an income, I wouldn't overhire, but I'm overhired mainly to combat like turnover. Like there's always the potential, although it hasn't been that bad. But also to like proactively prepare for growth, like future growth. But that comes with its own set of challenges too. And so site culture becomes the more team members you get, the more important site culture becomes. If it's just you, when it was just me and Jaime, my NP, there's
Yeah.
no site culture. Like site culture is just me and him shooting the shit and then getting our stuff done, and that's it. Like there's no that's the culture. And then once you start employing, and then you get a managerial level, and then you start streamlining, like you do this, you do that, it's very easy to either create a bad culture or lose the culture, and it's very tough to create a good culture.
Yeah. I think just setting it in the beginning and making sure that it's consistent throughout with everyone, making sure everyone's on the same page is important. What we do, like you asked me about communication with my team members and how we kind of flow together. We have Well, I'm like in contact with them every single day. So I
No.
know what's going on. I'm very involved. And then secondly, we have
Like how are you when you're not there, how are you in contact with them? You just call, text, what?
call. So my day starts with site visits. Like I'll go to my cardiology office for like an hour or two. It depends on like the schedule if she needs more support over there. And then I'll head to my other office, support the other staff there. So just kind of the mornings are kind of like that. And then if not, it's they're all in email, so I know what's going on with trials and what is needed. So I'm calling them like, hey, like like, are we doing this? Are we working on this? Like, how's today going? Just I'm like, I'm very involved, because I want to try to support them in any way. Like, if you guys need any help, I can help you. If you need help with regulatory, let me know. I can get some things done. I can, but aside from that, we have like we don't have weekly meetings because it's too much. No one has time for that. But we have by like maybe like every 2 months we'll have like a company meeting. And we have
Cool.
conference room. We'll kind of sit down, everyone regroup. What are you guys working on? What's your new projects? What is the business development doing? Like, what's our goal for the next you know 3 months or whatever it is. We kind of just like regroup as a company and focus on the goal and what we're working on and how we're going to get there. And then aside from that, with my physicians, I they see us every day, but to sit down and talk and discuss like business and numbers and new studies, we do monthly meetings once a month. But that's standard in their practice. So the
Yeah.
cardiologist, that's his rule. Like once a month, he meets with all the cardiologists and then he calls research in for like 30 minutes or 15 minutes to discuss updates. So that's when we kind of do our little presentation and we're like, okay, well, this is our recruitment goal. We print like this whole presentation when we do like how many patients we recruited in one study, which doctors referred, like which
Mhm.
doctor patient that is, just updates overall in cardiology and the practice. And they like to see that. They like to see the numbers. They like to see where everything is, and that's our only opportunity to get all 7 of them in one room. So that's when we do any protocol trainings, refreshers. We're like, "How
Okay.
are you recruiting?" Because we had an issue with one of our cardiologists. The way he was wording research to patients, it was scaring them away. So he was like, "Oh, you wanna be in this research study?" And they would be like, "No, of course not."
Mhm.
So we would, like, listen into the room and be like, "Are you sure, like, you don't want our support with, like, what in the room with what you're saying to the patient?" So, then, he asked us to come in and talk to the patient because we know how to kind of, you know, describe research a little bit better for them. So that, we try to focus on, like, education as well, like, with our physicians, with patients, with the community, with everything overall. So it's just like a constant flow of communication between everyone.
Yeah. I think that's the key is, like, the communication and
Yeah.
maybe over communicating rather than under.
Mhm.
Most of the times where I made mistakes was not communicating enough. And that's probably a lot to do with me at the time, being busy and not having time and just prioritizing. Like LaShawn says, every moment during the day counts.
Yeah.
My team knows that is our motto. Yeah, I agree. So, wow. Now, what about getting studies? Do you have problems with that? You're in Florida. This is the
I
most competitive
Interesting.
place in the world to get
So,
studies.
because it's very competitive, especially South Florida, you have to find something that stands out. Like something very like a key to standing out for a sponsor because you know there could be another site a few miles down the road, so what we do is we try to focus on quality versus quantity. So when we look for trials, we do a lot. It's overwhelming. It's actually it's a daily challenge. And I think as you build your reputation in the industry, like as a small business, eventually you get awarded more studies based on recruitment and all of these things, but it's a long process, and I think a lot of newer sites don't recognize how long it could take to get a very big and good trial. Um, but what we do mainly is we use a lot of vendors for studies. We connect a lot with MSLs in the area. I think
Do
that's
you
the key.
proactively, like, go out looking for them or, like, somebody's in
It's a
charge of that?
combination. So what we do is usually farm reps come into the clinic,
Yeah.
right? And they bring lunch. So
Our
we
favorite, yeah,
prepare.
lunch,
So
Starbucks.
we yeah, so we meet them. We introduce, hey, we're in the research department. You work for Merck. Maybe there's a way we can see your pipeline or whatever it is. Um, it's just an introduction. It's just building that relationship because eventually, even if there's nothing there, even if this person is not in charge of granting studies, whatever it is, she may know someone and long term it will be beneficial. So it's just about building these relationships, and we connect with MSLs, we connect with clinical trial leads. We use LinkedIn a lot for
Yeah.
messaging and reaching out to everyone. We use conferences. You know,
That's why you guys go to a lot of conferences. Shout
uh,
out to SOS conference, you're gonna be there too. And
so
that's affordable, you could bring everyone.
yeah, we're bringing a few people from our team. We're
I can't
excited.
wait to meet your team. I'm gonna ask them, "Hey, what's it like over there culture-wise, work-life balance?" You can ask mine too. Where it's good for site owners to talk about this stuff because when I started out, there was no one to talk to. There was no LinkedIn. Now at least like, Esthefany, even though I never met you, like, I can call you, vice versa, like, workout problems, Brad, same thing.
Yeah.
It's important to have this kind of connections.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started, I reached out to other sites like in different states, and they were like, "Well, it's almost like they have a wall."
Yeah.
They're very defensive with what they share and who they work with, which is
Why?
understandable, but I do feel like there should be some support, from other sites.
Yes.
So I think
It's
it's
healthy.
yeah, I've met a few site owners locally, um, and we've kind of broken that wall down and been like, we don't have to be competition. We
Mhm.
can just be, you know, like friends in research, you know? So I think that's kind of how it is. But it's definitely changed. And I think you're like really shedding a light on like sites, like connecting with other sites and saving other sites. You know what I mean? So I think that's important.
I think so too. I think that if everyone runs operates in a silo, I mean, you're just gonna we work in clinical research. So if you're working on your business, you're essentially doing a clinical trial on your own business. Like, oh, I'm gonna pull this lever and see what happens. That wasn't good. Somebody left. Well, now I'm gonna pull this lever to see what happens. But as opposed to like, hey, Brad, what are you doing that's worked? Or Stephanie, what are you doing that worked? I don't necessarily need to pull those levers. I can ask you guys because chances are you've done something I haven't, and
Mm,
vice versa. So that's the whole point of Save Our Sites is like bring everyone together and kind of do research on the research.
yeah. I think I'm excited for this conference and I think it's going to be very important in our industry, for small sites to kind of just support one another.
What what do you guys do like operations wise as far as source? Do you use eSource, eReg, or paper, everything? What do you guys do?
So we use paper, um, but we're starting to use e-consent for the new trials, like
Your own that you found or
no, like with sponsors,
okay.
consent. We're gonna start using e-reg in the next month. Um,
Because it's forced or you wanted to?
no, because we want to.
Which one are you gonna use?
I don't know. I have to ask Natalie. Maybe.
Okay, okay. Is Viva Site
Yeah,
Vaults
Viva,
too?
Viva. So,
Shout out to Site. They're one of the sponsors. Thank you for that, Stephanie. Viva Site Vault's amazing.
so we're trying to use another CTMS system. But
Separate.
no, no, we have a CTMS system, but
Which one is it?
am
You
I
have
allowed
to ask.
to say?
What? Oh, you can't say or what?
I mean, I don't know. Can
Oh,
I?
you don't know. Okay, okay. No, it's
No,
okay.
I
We
don't.
use Creo.
It's called Clinicist. So I used to work
Ah,
for this site, and you know, the founder of Clinicist, like he was a site owner as well, so he founded Clinicist, a CTMS system. So
oh wow. I never heard of that.
yeah, it's they're in Jacksonville. So I started using their system as a coordinator, and then they approached me as a site, and they're like, "Well, you can use this,"
That's
um,
awesome.
but it's a little, I want to say, outdated, sort of like
Okay.
there's certain things that we can't do that it's been a challenge, and obviously it's been difficult to kind of come out of that and go on to another CTMS system. So we're in the process of like trying to figure out those contracts.
Creo is not bad. I know they're a sponsor, but I've used them prior to them being a sponsor.
I like real
And real time, I haven't tried it, but they're a SOS sponsor too. So I've heard
Well,
good things about them
I
also.
really like real time, like from what I've seen from the presentation, and that's what we're trying to switch over to. So hopefully it works out, but I think it's just very easy managed for everyone on the team, and it just has everything on there.
Yeah, that's one I want to play around with too because I haven't played with it. I know Judy. You met Judy at
I think, yeah,
SCRS. Judy Galindo. You
yeah,
guys are very similar in the way you handle your business. I think both female site owners. Shout out to the female site owners. I think that
working moms.
yeah, not to like differentiate the genders, but I think females have like a lot of. I think men are too, or maybe me at least, too like it's either this or that, and then I think females, I guess, are better at managing, like juggling the complexities uh compassionately, like especially things like culture. When you get into soft skills, I think that's where female entrepreneurs really stand out. You guys have a lot going against you as well because we're not at parity yet to where everyone necessarily treats you equally, which
100%. I mean, I think, listen,
I think it's tougher to be a female is what I'm
it
trying to
is
say.
100%. And I tell everyone this. I say, people think it's easy because you're a female. It's quite the opposite. It's
Yeah.
actually extremely challenging because you're underestimated a lot. And, if you walk, it's very, I think, I mean, my cardiologists are all men. So, like, they're, very male dominated type of office. So, when they see, someone like a woman and doing research, like for them, it's just like they underestimate you. So you kind of have to earn your respect and in overall in business and change your reputation because I do feel like it's women in the workplace has been like not viewed like it should be, especially with business.
Especially with business. I've
Yeah.
seen it, like, I'm not a female, so I can't experience it, but I've talked to enough, like, people like you and other site owners out there that are female that, we're trying to work out, like, a situation, and I tell them what I did, and then I keep hearing back, like, "Well, this didn't work for me," and at some point, I'm like, "I gotta think, like, this is probably a male PI trying to take advantage," but sometimes it's even female PIs, like, that are the same. It's just it's not we're not at equal parity yet. As far as I think the business negotiations, maybe with physicians primarily,
Hmm.
but I think women have an advantage when it comes to managing uh, people,
Yeah, I think for sure.
like more nurturing and more. This is why I get my wife involved, like on the HR stuff
Oh,
at the
that's
site.
great.
Because, like, whenever there's internal conflict, I try to get involved, but the staff's like right now it's 100% female. Like we're about to hire our first male
You know,
coordinator. We need to balance it, but it's me like basically being psychologist where I'm not really good at that. So then I have my wife come in and I can tell the way she handles it is just way more professional and the appropriate response.
yeah, I definitely think it takes skills. Like you have to be very skill set to manage people and to deal with people. And I think it's a skill that you learn over time. I've definitely been working through that because I feel like initially I wasn't that I was very involved, but I also, you know, didn't, I didn't like manage people as a career. Like I didn't know what it was like to manage people. I had management positions in my career, but it was supported, you know? It
Hmm.
wasn't on my own independently. So there's a lot of things I had to learn as a business owner and working as a team and kind of balancing all of that out. So, you know, it takes a lot of knowledge.
For sure, and it's a work in progress. And at the end of the day, like no one's got it all figured out, male or female, or anything in between. No, no one's got this stuff figured out, and everyone's got something to learn. Again, why SOS is needed. Like you can get ideas, and it's going to be a very pragmatic approach to a conference. Like it's not gonna be bullshit like going in there and just talking in platitudes. It's gonna be like actionable things. Like from every session we have, I forget everyone else. I want to walk away with something from each session that I can do the next week when I get back to the site.
Mhm.
And I hope that's what everyone gets out of it who attends because you don't really get that at conferences. You go to conferences, you get networking. Oh, okay, let's be research buddies and share studies, but we can do that and more, like actually take something home with you.
Yeah, the conferences are expensive. It like it
Boo.
it's a little crazy. But there are a few conferences that we definitely attend to because they're local, it's
Yeah.
the drive for us. And we do think that they're important overall with like sponsors. And they do get larger over time, but overall, I think SOS is will eventually get there
Yeah.
because you have all these small sites that are developing, you have the small sites that have been established, and then you have these large sites that are being acquired.
Right.
So it's like, even if you're a larger site, you can be part of SOS.
Yes, and there are gonna be large sites there, and now the VCs are coming into the
Yeah.
market and buying up all these sites and trying to flip them, and yeah, there's like when you go to a conference, you make a ROI assessment.
Mhm.
Ours, the price is so low that the ROI should be exorbitant, like disproportionate to what you're paying, but
Mhm.
it's also your time, and I don't think ROI should be the only metric. I think that's just the floor. Like, yeah, you can justify, okay, if I'm paying 8 grand for this conference, but I'm going to get a study from a big pharma, it's worth it. And that's ROI. But you can also get that same ROI paying a lot less and learning something like that you can bring back to your site. So it could be better. It's not ROI is just the basic. Like that's just to be in business. If
Mhm.
you're a business provider that doesn't provide ROI to your customers, you're not going to be in business long. And you shouldn't be in business long.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I even with like the MSLs that we connect with on in the office, or any reps, any clinical trial leads that we connect with on social media, and LinkedIn, where I try to find value in everything, So yeah, I think even with physicians that we do door knocking, if there's no business relationship opportunity there, then I just try to find the value in everyone that comes our way or that we approach, because at some point it will be valuable. And I think with these conferences, even if you're connecting with people, and finding something valuable in like the actual conference and what you're learning, is so important to your team and to research overall, because then you can brainstorm and expand or implement and modify things. So it's just so important to like connect with everyone. I think
Yeah.
that's how, I have a lot of people who reach out to me, like they want to develop a new research site or they want to expand. And the most important thing is obviously communication overall, but networking,
Yeah.
network, and find value in networking.
People want to skip that, you know. They want to
Yeah.
hire you, hire me to skip all that. Like, hey, I know networking is important. How about I just pay you and you do all this for me? Like, my favorite is the PI. Hey, Dan, I want to start a site. I'm like, awesome. I've been a CRA for 10 years. Oh, cool. Do you have a PI? No, that's what I wanted to hire you for. Well, no, you need to find yourself a PI. I can't go to your community. First of all, I don't know your community, and then I'm not gonna go talk to them. And even if I did, Stephanie, even if let's imagine I had all the time in the world and I did that,
Yeah.
and the PI says, "Okay, cool, I want to work with you." Oh, well, you're actually working with me. You're working with this person you haven't met, but like you'll see her Monday. What good is that? You guys got to go out there and network. When it comes to getting studies, the same thing. But we can that's a little more refined. Like we can get you leads, we can help do the feasibilities, but the PI, like the core, if you don't work on your exercise and sales muscle, or if you don't exercise your networking and your sales muscle, you don't stand a chance in
Yeah.
this business.
Yeah, and that's the key component to and everything in research is a PI. And like for I mean that's interesting. That's
Yeah, they just want to pay. You're not Warren Buffett. You're not gonna buy Coke and then sit back and get dividends from a Coke stock. Like, this is a site. You got to get your hands dirty. This is why I think these VCs is kind of a bad idea too. But let them figure that out on their own. They're smarter than I am. They're richer. And they know what they're doing. But I just got theories about this.
well, see, this is this is what we're honestly like. I think we do very well with is like building business development with our physicians. So what we do is, if I have physicians, which I've had a lot, reach out to me and say, "Hey, I want to do research." I don't. Like it takes a lot. Like I have to see, aside from being a PI and their clinical experience and their knowledge, what more value can they bring? Like, are they going to be active? Are they going to be enrolling? What's their database? What's their office structure like? Who's, like how do they work? What's their personality? Because 11 years in this industry, you deal with a bunch of different doctors. Some of them are very standoffish, some of them could be very rude, some of them are very friendly. Like, it's just, you
And they
have
alternate too, like, they
some
switch.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think what we do is when we set up these meetings to meet with new physicians, I get to know them. I need to understand how they work, what their database is like, who's going to support research. Is it their manager? There's MAs. Do they have other investigators involved? So there's a for for new sites that are starting, for them to just find a random PI that has a medical degree and wants to do research, you should really do research on that. You
yeah,
really consider and think about, do you want to work with this person long term? Because remember, research is a long term commitment. They're signing contracts for 2 to 5 years in trials. um, and
sometimes longer than that with the archiving.
yeah, well, yeah, but minimum 2 to 5, I
Yeah,
think.
yep,
So I think I'm very considerate when we have other physicians join our team. It has to be a very effective working relationship.
yeah.
And there's a lot of physicians that I've basically turned down joining our team because I don't like the way they communicate. Maybe they're not responsive. Maybe
That's
they
a
just,
big one, big one.
yeah,
I
or
think
maybe,
women, that's another place I think women are better than men. Better intuition. Men oftentimes let their egos get in the way. Like, oh, I could work with this guy. If he ends up doing something, I could figure I'll control him. And then the other guy's thinking the same thing.
yeah.
But women are thinking like trust their gut. There's say something about a woman's intuition.
Yeah, I think that's important. But you have to filter through. You have to filter through a bunch of people and find what works for your, employees, as a team, as well, coordinators, um, doctors, everyone you work with. You got to be very selective.
Yes, and you got to get to a point. You know what helps, regardless of uh, gender, because I actually think there's way more similarities. But I'm gonna get canceled for being sexist. But it's okay, guys. Relax. You've got to get to a point where you're not desperate about anything. So there's four like key things I think that you need: studies, physicians, patients, and staff. Right?
Yeah,
If if you can get to all those places to where you're not desperate, you can make like more intelligent decisions. Like, do I really want that study? Nah. Do I really need this? Like, do I really need this physician to work with? Probably not. Do I really need to hire this staff? I didn't like that about them. When you could get to that point, you're doing well. But it's so hard to get to
it
that
is.
point, and people get, especially in the beginning, they get desperate for all four of those things, and they get started off like on the wrong track just because it's like the first PI I met. Okay, I'm gonna work with him, and then he turns out to be like a total asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first coordinator, this is great. Well, no, there was better, but you just like you were too desperate. You didn't say no enough. And that's
Yeah.
something I learned the hard way over the years at YCT. I don't think I've done that yet, but definitely in my early times of like site owner, previous companies, I did that a lot in all four of those categories.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do that at some point. I mean, in the beginning, I was, um, I mean, I didn't have I knew it was going to be a very long investment, because that's what it is. So I knew it was going to take a very long time. And a lot of new people need to understand that this is a long process. You don't get paid on time. You're investing a lot of money and a lot of time. So for me, it's like I knew what I was getting myself into, but I really wanted to focus on building and creating this quality research site, because I've seen, South Florida saturated with research sites. You
Jeez.
see all these small sites, in Miami, wherever it is, in Broward, that have one PI that's barely there, and 10 studies that they can't manage, and like coordinators that are just all over the place. So you see that and you're like, well, how do they even have studies? Like, how can they manage this? And for me, it was like, I see that and I don't want to make that error. So focusing on the quality of like the employee retentions and employees overall, physicians, all of that is super important. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to think of it, you're investing into these people, you're investing into your PIs. So to find someone who's worth investing, you shouldn't be desperate, you know?
Yes. That's
So
like the big maybe we'll make that t-shirt at SOS. Don't be desperate. Brad, if you're still watching, Brad loves the t-shirts. Don't be desperate shirt.
don't be desperate.
I like that. I think that's so important. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for doing
And
this.
thank you.
It's like what a rare occurrence. The next one will be what in 5 years? Or you want to do one in person at SOS? We can do one in person.
Good. That would be
I have a
great.
videographer, like a short one, like 20 minutes or 30, depending on however long you
Yeah,
want.
every time I text Dan and I'm like, hey, I have a quick question, he's like, okay, go live.
Let's go live right now.
It's
That's
not a live question.
sometimes you're so busy. Brad says he's on it. Brad, that is a good you gotta admit, Brad, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of fun with that one too. Don't be desperate. Yeah, yes, let's go live. I think to multitask, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, yesterday we were interviewing potential coordinators and we might hire two. We really only needed one, but there was two really good ones. That's kind of rare, like in one round.
Yeah.
We might just hire both. And again, the don't be desperate idea came up there because, well, why not? I don't need to hold on to the cash. Like if they're both good, they're both not going to be on the marketplace very long. I might as well get them as opposed to being desperate later for somebody else. So
Yeah, well, I honestly that's rare. So,
it's rare. I know. I never seen it before.
yeah, so I think, you know, if everyone is trained well, everyone has good potential at some point, but a good coordinator is key to everything, to the business. So,
They are everything. These vendors, these VCs, these even the CROs, sponsors, they have no clue. If they knew how this industry actually worked, they would all question why the hell they're doing this. This is the coordinators run this industry. Period. Like, yeah, PI sign the labs and refer patients and recommend their pay, but coordinators do everything, guys. Everything. We need to have a coordinator appreciation
we
day or week or
no, we
month.
should. It should be a holiday.
Yeah. Well, paid time off. Yeah, I guess we could do that. All right,
All right.
Stephanie.
Well, it
This
was
was a
good.
pleasure. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. It was good. Um,
Everybody go connect with Stephanie right now from Forward Clinical Research. Her link is underneath this video when you're watching it later and in the podcast. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
thank you so much. Bye.